Abram had returned to Canaan a wealthy man. He had fled to Egypt during a famine, fearing for his life. The Lord had protected Abram and Sarai in Egypt. He blessed them greatly. They returned with increased flocks, herds, and possessions. Abram had silver and gold in abundance. Abram traveled with his family and all that he owned. Lot, his nephew, traveled with him. They journeyed south from the Negev towards the region of Bethel. This was the same place where Abram had built an altar to the Lord years earlier. He had returned to the place where he had first experienced God's presence in the land. Abram's heart was filled with gratitude for God's faithfulness. He was grateful for God's protection and provision. He built an altar to the Lord at Bethel and called upon his name. Abram remembered God's promise. He acknowledged God's sovereignty over his life and his future. The quarreling of their herdsmen created a rift between Abram and Lot. Abram was deeply troubled by the situation. He loved Lot and did not want this conflict to escalate. Abram sought a peaceful resolution. He wanted to preserve their family unity. Abram knew that the strife was not pleasing to God. He had to find a way to resolve it. He sought a solution that would honor God and preserve their kinship. Abram demonstrated his faith in God. He trusted that God would guide him to a just solution.
Please let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brethren.
Abram's words revealed his character. He was a man of peace, a man of faith.
Is not the whole land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I will go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I will go to the left.
Abram, in a remarkable display of humility, offered Lot the first choice of land. Abram placed the needs of Lot before his own. He was willing to sacrifice for the sake of peace and family unity. Lot looked toward the plain of Jordan. He saw that it was well watered everywhere. It was like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt as you go toward Zoar. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. The land was fertile and inviting. Lot was drawn to its beauty and abundance. Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan. He packed up his tents and moved his flocks and herds eastward. He drew closer to the cities of the plain, towards Sodom. Lot's choice revealed his priorities. He was drawn to material prosperity and worldly pleasures. Lot's choice had consequences. He chose a land known for its sinfulness. He chose to live among those who did not know or honor God. Lot's decision to pitch his tent towards Sodom demonstrated a lack of spiritual discernment. He prioritized temporal comfort over spiritual well-being. Abram, left to himself, received the promise of God. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "Lift your eyes now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward." Abram, obedient to God's word, surveyed the land around him. "All the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever," the Lord declared. Abram, though he had possessed nothing, was now promised a land, a future, a legacy. God promised Abram countless descendants. He said, "I will make your descendants as the dust of the earth," so that if a man could number the dust of the earth, then your descendants also could be numbered. This was a promise of unimaginable blessing, a future filled with hope and purpose. God instructed Abram, "Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you." Abram, filled with awe and faith, obeyed. He journeyed through the land, claiming it in the name of the Lord. He pitched his tent, a symbol of his trust in God's promise. Abram moved his tent and came and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron. There he built an altar to the Lord. Abram's life was marked by acts of worship. He acknowledged God's presence and provision in every aspect of his life. He lived in constant communion with his Creator, seeking his guidance and trusting in his promises. Abram's journey of faith continued.